Hey guys, Alex Bennett here, Director of Athletic Performance at the PGA Tour Performance Center at TBC Sawgrass. I'm going to get right into it. I get this question a lot. I get a lot of messages from people that talk about hip pain, not being able to get more hip mobility specifically. They always wonder, why are my hips always tight? I'm not able to rotate the way I want to, whatever it may be. Especially if you get a lot of hip pain when you're trying to gain hip mobility, or if you just feel like you're hitting a wall. It's most likely because you are. It has a lot to do with how your pelvis is actually built, how your femur goes into your hip capsule itself. Everyone's hips are different, anatomically speaking. I've seen videos where trainers are talking about their players have, 50 degrees of internal rotation, and that might be the case for that player, but not every player has that on the PGA Tour, nor do you have to have that to be successful or have an efficient swing. You do need to be strong and stable in those hips if you want to be healthy, if you want to have a consistent movement pattern. That's the most important thing. We have a lot of people, like I said, that come here and they talk about hip pain, they talk about wanting to get more hip mobility, but really in turn it just turns out their hips are built differently. They're not able to get as much internal rotation. They might not be able to get as much external rotation. It's something that you need to be checked for by a professional. They'll check what they call how retroverted you are. And that all has to do with how much space you have in your hip capsule to actually properly internally rotate. It might not be much. If that is the case, I'm going to give you some exercise. One of my players, he's a top 20 player in the world. He's won all over the world. He has barely any internal hip rotation. He is retroverted in his hips. That has not stopped him from being one of the best ball strikers in the world. It does matter, and the one thing we have completely worked on is getting the most out of his glutes, his glute medius, making sure he's strong in a lateral sense. He's got a lot of lateral stability. We've worked hard on his obliques, his glutes. But like I said, I get a lot of messages from people that talk about this, and it is not something that you can just go to the gym and start doing, hip mobility exercises, stand there going internally rotate and be like, oh, this is going to help me. It probably won't. And you won't see much improvement, and it might even hurt while you're doing it. That is because you just anatomically can't move that way. You can't improve that internal rotation. And you might be able to improve it once we get your glutes stronger, once we get them a little more open. We might be able to improve it slightly, but it's one of those things where if you're anatomically not prepared for that internal rotation and you're trying to force mobility upon it, you're just asking for injuries to occur. So I'm going to show you some safe exercises. I'm just going to give you 3 exercises. You can do these daily. They're good for anyone. This is even someone with good hip mobility. These are just great moves to build your glutes, build your glute medius. The first one we're going to start with is the classic clamshells, but we're going to do a 5-second hold. We're going to do 5 reps on each side with that 5-second hold. We're going to do 3 sets. I'm only going to do 1 set for the camera. I'm only going to do 1 set in general because these burn quite a bit and they're not one of my most fun exercises. But what I want you to focus on here is we're making a straight line with the body. We're not crunched up. We're making a straight line. Shins are at 90 degrees. What I want you to focus on is we come up. We're not allowing the hips to open. We're not opening our chest. We're getting this specifically with the glute. I want you to raise that band as high as you can. 5-second hold. We're going to go back down. We're back up. We're counting the 5. And this is where we're teaching these glutes to turn on. A lot of guys, you can do a lot of reps. You might be able to go like that and be fine. We need to build that strength. We need to build that stability, and we need to do that with isometrics. We need to make sure we're using our glute. If you feel like you're not using your glute, really make sure those hips are kind of staying closed. You're back enough. We come up. We're just really feeling that glute work. Back down. I think I got one more. Come up. Then we're back down. We're always going to switch sides. And what I want you to notice too is one side a lot different than the other. So we're up. Mike might be messing up. And right after this, we're going to superset it with a glute bridge. And as we come up, we're going to press out. This is something you could definitely wrap 2 bands around your legs. You can go pretty strong with this next one. You don't have to have just one band. I like with a lot of my tour players, we'll take this exact band, put it on right over top. So we're gonna get a little posterior tuck. We're gonna bridge up. We're gonna push out as hard as we can here. And we're just gonna hold. We're gonna do a 10-second hold here. And you're gonna feel those glutes really working. We're tucked underneath, core is tight, core is stable. Back down, we're gonna give it about a 5-second break. We're gonna do this 3 times. Tuck, up, squeeze, and then push the knees out as hard as you can. I like these fabric bands because you get to a certain point, you can't really push out anymore. And this is the type of move that you really need to be able to push out and almost feel like you just can't push this band anymore. You just create that tension in the glutes. Get a strong isometric hold here. We're gonna do one more time. Tuck underneath. We don't want to be super extended. We're going to be braced here, strong here, like we're squeezing those glutes. It's one of those sneaky burners. If you're not feeling the glutes after those 2, I don't know what's wrong with you. But we're going to do 3 rounds of those. So we're going to go through those 2 more times. For the sake of video's sake, I'm on to the next exercise. Once again, these are moves anyone can benefit from, especially if you have low back issues, anything like that. You feel like you're always rotating a ton and your low back just gets super achy. Wake these glutes up, get them stronger. It'll help a lot. On to the next move. All right, so here we're doing a curtsy step up. This is really gonna force us to use our glutes. Not only to step up, but we're gonna have to sink really down into this hip. And like I said, this is great for someone that feels like they lack a lot of internal rotation, if they're working on hip mobility and they just can't seem to get better. This is working in a little more dynamic sense, teaching us that when we want to load our hip, we're going to load it with our glute. Now, today's video, I'm trying to keep it short, 3 moves. I haven't even touched the hip flexors, right? First, focus on the glutes, see how those are working. I'm going to have another video addressing just the hip flexors. That's a whole nother thing. But your hip flexors will benefit from doing these moves, absolutely. The more we can get reciprocal inhibition, the more we can get those glutes to work, the less we're gonna rely on those hip flexors. When those hip flexors are really tight, it's because we're relying on them to do way too much. Need those glutes to be working. So, lean into it and step up with that single leg, and then this leg's gonna drop back, we're dropping down. And I'm not using any weight for this. This would be a great little warm-up move before you go play. Before you go practice, find a stable bench. Great for the ankles and feet. Try to sit into it as much as you can before you hit the ground. Sit into it, and then come down. Drive up with that leg. Sit into it. And you're definitely gonna, it's hard not to feel this glute, especially right down here as we're sitting down into it. Good. We're gonna switch sides. We're gonna do 8 on each side. Shift into it. Like right there, I feel that glute stretch. Whew, good balance, Alex. We're gonna come up my left side. Is this side major ankle injury? It takes me a few. I could have done a few before I got on camera. That would have been the smart thing to do. But hey, it's authentic. Come back down, lean into it, drive up with that glute. And as soon as I get that glute going, that ankle gets a little more stable. So same for you. If you've had ankle injuries, get those glutes working. They stabilize. Okay, stop talking. They stabilize the hip, the knee, the ankle. They're very, very important. Good. So give those a try. Like I said, if you're someone that feels like they're always doing hip mobility and nothing gets better, it's probably not. We need to strengthen the glutes, strengthen the glute medius, just get stronger, get more stable. I've got a ton of videos about good hip stretches, glute stretches, things like that. They're not gonna stick. It might be something where you do the stretch and for a couple hours it feels good, it goes right back. It's because we don't have the strength and the stability, especially in that range of motion, to stay there. So focus on the strength, focus on the stability, the activations. I'm telling you, do these daily. You'll see great benefits, not only with your hip health, but I promise you, your low back's gonna feel better. You're gonna be rotating better. You're gonna be loading better. You're gonna have better balance. There's a lot of benefits to doing these 3 exercises. Do them daily, do them before you work out, do them before you go play. Promise they'll feel better. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to get around to them. Thanks, guys.